Welcome to Mission Evolution Radio Show with Gwilda Wiyaka, bringing together today's leading experts to uncover ever-deepening spiritual truths and the latest scientific developments in support of the evolution of humankind. For more information on Mission Evolution Radio with Gwilda Wiyaka, visit www.missionevolution.org. And now, here's the host of Mission Evolution, Miss Gwilda Wiyaka.
Angels have been alluded to in one form or another almost as long as there's been recorded history. What are they? Can they guide us through these uncertain times? If so, where do we find them? Mission Evolution Radio TV show is coming to you around the world on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, xzbn.net. With us this hour to discuss finding and connecting with angels is Dr. Scott Guerin. The driving force behind Scott's life has been his passion for unraveling the mysteries of God, universe, source, and the intricate tapestry of their relationship with humanity. With 2 master's degrees and a doctorate in human development with a focus on spiritual development, Scott's journey has delved into the profound realms of the human spirit. His new book in his Angels in Training series is Looking for Angels, a guide to understanding and connecting with angels. His website, angelintraining.org. Scott, thanks for joining us on Mission Evolution.
Well, thank you for having me, Gwilda.
It's a wonderful day to be talking about this, I'd have to say.
Yes.
Yeah. So, how did you first become interested in angels?
Well, it happened very early in life for me. I was raised a Lutheran, and as the way of the Lutheran Church goes, you have 2 years of confirmation classes, and that's like in 7th and 8th grade. And so, it's where you go to an extra class during the week, and then you have go through some different examinations and things like that. But the first year was more passive. The second year, my brothers and sister told me that get ready, because you're gonna have to take sermon notes and hand them in. And I'm like, oh, that's bad, because I was not a good student. I was not ready to do that. But even at that age, I was zeroed in on the sermons. That was what I got out of church. I would follow the liturgy, and then like, okay, 2 paragraphs to go, and then I'm out of here. That type of thing. But I was fascinated by the sermons because that was information about God and about spirit, and that's what I wanted. And so first year's fine. The second year of confirmation classes, as I was predicted, we had to submit the sermon outlines. So I started writing them. And then forgot to mention that the first year I started writing them down anyway, the outlines, knowing that I'd have to do it. Might as well get into it the first year. Second year comes along when we have to submit them. Started writing the outlines down, handing them in. And then I noticed that there was a couple sermons that were repeated from the year before. I'm like, wow, there must be some reason for this. There must be something big, like maybe we didn't get it and God told the minister to tell us again, or maybe there's new people. Who knows? But there must be a reason. I was fascinated by that. So I got up the nerve. I was just a kid. So I got up the nerve to ask the pastor at the end of the service once. I said, Pastor, I noticed that you had you repeated the sermons, and I was wondering why. What could be the reason? And he put his hand on my shoulder and he said, Scott, this is a tough job. And for me, I was like, my world just cracked apart. Like, what? Because that was my lifeline to God. That's where a living, breathing, spiritual person was giving us information, and it's just a job for him. And it was so that kind of got me off track a bit, with at least that religion. And then we went on. Our whole family left that Lutheran church, and most of us went into the conservative Christian beliefs and the non-denominational churches, and my search continued. I liked the born again initial message of having a personal relationship with Jesus. That's what initially not dragged me in, attracted
Kicking and
me.
screaming, right?
Yeah. Well, I wanted that connection. That's the theme. And so then, we got in, and the other thing I liked at the time was everything was kind of laid out, like you do this, you do that, you don't do this, this will happen. And over the years, I noticed that the personal connection kind of was de-emphasized, and the truth, like you've got to do this thing, was emphasized in several different churches that I was into. And that didn't sit well with me and my friends who I told about, because I was always fascinated with religion and spirituality, wanted to know what other people thought about, and that I wanted to save them from damnation at that point. And some would push back and say, come on, Scott, really? And so with those nagging thoughts, at one point I kind of left and went into the Presbyterian church, which is basically the same, although less heavy-handed about the consequences, of not doing, the plan, and so I was all in, with that as well, and that for maybe 15 years, all in to the Presbyterian religion. I was an elder, teaching Sunday school, still pursuing God as all whatever ways I could. We'd have somebody come in and do a sermon on fasting, on how important fasting is, and I'd be fasting every month, like that type of thing. So despite that, my personal life fell apart. I was married, had 3 kids, and as I was still pursuing God, doing all the things I wanted to do and needed to do and felt led to do, my personal life fell apart to the point of divorce and financial ruin. And then I'm like, I'm a freaking elder. How could this happen? What did I miss? So I'm praying, and nothing. I, I didn't get any answers back. So at a very dark time in my life, excuse me, I decided, like, I'm leaving this whole idea of organized religion, and then I delved into spirituality through psychology at that point, and still followed that. So that's really been my path, looking for spirituality outside of religion, and looking into the essence of what spirit and spirituality is. And that took me through uh, my degrees, and then intense teachings and practice in meditation. And then in this book, a year and a half ago, it kind of opened the doors to modern day angels, and a modern day approach to spirituality. And that's
So,
that's kind of where I am.
so have you personally had any direct contact with angels or the angelic realm?
Yes. So, and it's been slow. So the way I look at it, and I've been working, I first found a co-author for the book, Nicole Bigley, has had a podcast called A Psychic Story. And I was listening to that for maybe 6 months or so. And every week she would have someone in, a medium, astrologer, other psychics, that type of thing. And I was eating that all up. And then that's when I asked her, would you mind being a co-author for the book? And she said, absolutely. So since then, I've been working with her, and then on the podcast, and I learned things about this transition. And I love the mission evolution, because we are in a phase of evolution to what I believe, a next level in human development. And so I think there's 3 ways people awaken to the spirit world that's different probably from every other time in history. And so the first way is people are born with it, with a connection. And you may have heard or learned about some of these people who, just from as far as they can remember, they've had a spirit guide, an archangel, spirit team conversing like live, with them, from very early on. So they have, I call that kind of hardwired, to the spirit world. And then you have the second way, I believe, and what I've seen is through trauma. People with, severe trauma, it kind of pushes them to expand beyond this physical realm, right? The third dimension, as a lot of people look at it, to, to push out and make connection out of maybe just self preservation, of reaching out. And then what I say is that the rest of us can learn, can learn, by trial and error, by practicing and this and that. And so that's what I've been doing the last year and a half, is learning. And through, you start with meditation, and then you start looking into different things to do, and make connections. So my first entree to developing a spirit team, and identifying the spirit team that we all have around us, is with an animal spirit. And I heard a person do a talk on animal spirits, and all you have to do is ask. I'm like, really? That's all you have to do is ask? So one night I went to bed and I said, please uh, provide me a spirit animal if I could have one. And the next morning, and to this day, there in my mind's eye, I have a leopard that is my spirit animal, and I call her Shira, and she's always around, almost to the point where if I'm not thinking, sometimes I kind of reach over, and put my hand on her head. And so that was kind of like, wow, there is something to this. There's something real and tangible.
So
Um,
we're about
mhm,
to get ready to go into a commercial break. On
mhm,
the other side, we will continue with your experience of actually connecting with spirit animals and hopefully angels.
mhm.
Scott and I will return very shortly, so don't go away. This is Mission Evolution, www.missionevolution.org. Are there angels among us? With us this hour discussing the angelic realm is the author of Looking for Angels, a guide to understanding and connecting with angels, Dr. Scott Garner. Garin, excuse me, Garin.
Guerin, right?
Guerin. Hey,
Yes.
we'll get that right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, some days, huh, I tell you. Um, so we were getting into, you first found a totem animal, I take it. What's
Mhm.
the relationship between angels and helping spirits and totem animals?
Well, it's an extension, certainly. The purpose of spirit animals usually are general in that sense. Strength, power of um, connection with the spirit world. And a lot of it is just that, is companionship and protection. And that's how I view Shira. Is that she, a leopard is a watcher and a looker, and sometimes when I'm speaking or things like that, I'm a little nervous. I see her mind's eye doing that, like figure eight kind of, she kind of picks up on that. But in general, spirit animal, there's many different types, and people have a connection, and they usually can explain like what that spirit animal means to them. It might be a remembrance of a past loved one, or it might be a companion or a protector, or just a sign from God that they are connected.
So there's a whole science behind angels. Different angels and what they do.
Yes.
Um, does that relate in real life when you're working with angels? Do you see these archetypes, if you will, archetypes of say Archangel Michael with his sword?
Yes. Well, and so the other way, and kind of, I'm just sharing the path that I followed to help people who are kind of getting into this as well, is that, and people ask me, like, how do I get involved? I tell them about the spirit animal, but I also say, like, look, the biggest thing you can do is just start being aware, and aware of the things around you, the coincidences, the synchronicities, the butterflies that are just hanging around your car, or all of a sudden a song will play on the radio that you used to listen to with a loved one, or things like that. And once you are aware, you can start building on that. And I always say that we on this dimension on planet Earth are under the law of free will. And so the free will is a good thing. Like, hey, we know we can do what we want. We could explore. We can not do things, whatever it may be. The bad thing with free will is that we sometimes forget that there's a tremendous amount of help standing behind us or around us, and it's just the way it is. You have to ask them. They have to be invited into your life to help in a specific way or a general way, whatever it may be. So
So
that's
the
the yeah.
when you're talking about the things that show up in nature, the butterfly, this sort of thing, you're talking about using synchronicity as omenology.
I'm not familiar with that term.
Omenology means a meaning behind. So you have
Oh,
synchronicity, a butterfly shows up. What does
yes.
that mean? That would be the omen.
Yes. Well, then that's the thing. Is not everything is a sign or a symbol. It's
Might just be a
and
bird sitting on a branch, right?
right, exactly, exactly. And so that's where our own intuitive nature has to, we have to rely on that and trust in that to say, like, was that just a butterfly, or was that, something someone wanted to just touch base and say hi, a loved one, or God just, or the spirit world just sending a message like we're here. Or, yeah.
Does it help, Scott, to go back in your what was I thinking just before that showed up? Does that help to see if there's meaning or not?
Yes, it does, and that's the other part of making a connection with the spirit world is putting that intention out there, even if it's general. Please help me to
Hey,
connect with with a past loved one, or please, show me how I can better myself and be a better servant through a guides and angels in my life, or please send me a teacher, whatever it may be. You put the intention out, because if you don't put the intention out, then nothing is going to show up,
once you once
specifically.
you once you've put that intention out, Scott, do you need to watch your dreams as well as thoughts that
Oh,
come up and
yeah.
omens in nature?
Yes, dreams are a very powerful tool that spirit connects to us. And we did a study for the book, early on, where we asked 800 people. First question: do you believe in angels? Yes or no? If no, then you're out of the study. Yes. If we and then that, and there was 75%, 600 people said yes, I believe in angels, and that was in mainly 4 countries around the world. Ended up being. Then the next question was, have you had an angel encounter? And then if they said yes, then we gave them a list of about 12 things, common things like seeing butterflies or repeated numbers. The number one choice was uh, dreams that were unlike any other dream. That was the most common angel encounter, that people saw that. The next
Amazing.
thing was urge to stop, or a voice to like stop, change direction, do something different. And I don't know if you've experienced that. We have, many people have, and that was the second most popular answer.
It's amazing how so many people had so much in common as far as their experience with the angels. Now, if you're working with angels intentionally, do you have a personal guardian angel, and would that be separate from one that has a clear role, like Archangel Michael or Raphael?
Yeah, great question. And from my perspective and others, the guardian angel has a special role in our lives, and the reason why it's special is that they are the ones that have been with us prior to our incarnation in this life. And in the you have to assume that this story is, that there's in between lives, and we have incarnations, and then we transition out and to others. But as we prepare for this life, we sit down with our spiritual elders and guardian angels, and you say, okay, this is what I'm planning to do in this life. This is what I'd like to learn. And the guardian angels are there, and you give them permission to intervene without asking. So what's different is the free will. So this is the proverbial, you're going down the street and an accident happens and you're, miraculously saved. That could be a guardian angel coming into play without your permission. Then the other angels and spiritual beings, because there are other things other than angels, but in the angel realm, you have the other angels. And if familiar with the levels of angels, you have the principalities and powers and cherubim and seraphim, and all that's laid out in sacred texts, mainly the Hebrew Bible and Christianity and in Islam, all kind of map out a general outline of hierarchy and descriptions of different angels and their positions.
Well,
Um,
are these angels, have they ever been incarnate? Have they ever been people, or
oh,
have they always been spiritual beings?
Great question. So when you look at now, we look at where do we get our information about spirituality, right? And if you look at the great religions, they all go back to like somebody was inspired or heard something and they wrote it down into the books. So at least as a starting base, the sacred texts say, and they all agree, Judeo-Christian, Islam all agree that once the physical universe was created, humans were created as extension of divine. Then angels were created. Either, but it's just there's a discrepancy whether it was before physical creation or after or whatever it may be. But they all agree on that angels, in a sense, are a different species than humans than anything else, and that they have never been incarnated, so they don't have the human physical experience, but they are separate in that way, and they are, in a sense, hardwired. Again, use that term to carrying out God, source, the universe's path of life for the universe.
So is it kind of like a step down from source, which is
Hmm.
huge, we can't even wrap our heads around
Yeah.
it, and stepping it down into a form that we can kind of commune with?
Yeah, a big thing of that is and even it's in physics nowadays. They say the universe doesn't speak words; it speaks vibration. And so
Mhm.
it's
Right.
not a hierarchy in the sense that one is better than the other. It's a matter of vibration coming into the third dimension, which is where we are, the physical world, where we experience time. Past, present, future is separate, where there's an emphasis on separation rather than unity,
Right.
and things like that. So yeah, so they kind of delve down, in a sense, able to slow their vibrations at times, and that's when people see, angels or the third man scenario where someone's in dire straits and there's a person appearing to help them, and then they look for them and they're gone. That's how angels can come in and out of our world.
By shifting frequency.
Yes,
Do
yes.
the way they appear to us have to do with frequency? In other words, we're creating an archetype in our mind to represent the frequency that we're experiencing.
I think that's a great hypothesis on that. Whether or not it's up to them or up to us, I'm not sure about. Some of the angel stories, the most impactful angel stories that I've heard is when someone, they hear a bump in the night, they go downstairs and all they see is this glowing like ball or glowing light, and it could be blue, maybe symbolizing Archangel Michael, maybe not, but they experience unconditional love
Mm.
for like
Well, we're
15 seconds, and it changes their life. And so
absolutely.
there wasn't any form, any human being, any past love, no, it was
Well,
just
we're going
that.
to have to move into a commercial break. Scott and I will be back, so you stay right there. This is Mission Evolution. www.missionevolution.org. Call on the angels. We need all the help we can get. This is Mission Evolution, missionevolution.org. With us discussing finding angels is Dr. Scott Guerin. Guerin, I think I
Guerin.
did it right.
Yes, yes.
His website, angelandtraining.org. Scott, it's kind of hard to look around us and not think that we're kind of in unprecedented times. Everything's moving very quickly, everything's unprecedented, there's a lot of upheaval. Are the angels more available and more active during times like these?
Yes, they are. And this is a very unique and critical time in the development of humanity on this planet. And as I mentioned to you before, that when we came up with the title "Angelic Guidance in Uncertain Times," I thought it was a wonderful title and such a need for this right now. And what I've received back is, and it's just thinking about it and just reaching out to my spirit team, how can angels help us in this time? And that's when I got some answers, and I'll share them with you. I may slip into like a third voice for a moment, but just as an answer to that, just give me 1 second here. These are unprecedented times, but times of celebration, because humanity as a civilization, as a unity, is set in stone, that we are going to ascend to the higher levels of vibration, into the fourth, fifth, and beyond dimensions. And those dimensions are one of unity, of love, of trust, of different ways to use technology. And while that's great and while that's good, there's things that need to happen in humans to do that. And right now, across the globe, there are people who some say are light workers. Um, these are people who are practitioners of angelic communication and love and those types of things. But there are also anyone that is clinging to love and light and wish to see improvement in our world. These people, including Channel Scott, is going through a time of transformation, and that comes with some physical symptoms, in a sense, where you have extreme fatigue, tiredness, visions, different dreams, these types of things. And this is to be accepted as usual. Um, and where this is getting us is a transformation into more of a unified consciousness, and, as mentioned, um, higher levels. And while this is a good thing, and that it is written that it will happen, it has been tried before, but there's so much excitement about the path of humanity in the future. However, it's not without a tumultuous time ahead, where there are a weeding out of those who are not embracing love and light, and that kind of rolling out is happening like a birth. And I've been told a number of times, my spirit team, that we need the birth is coming. We need people to help with the delivery, and that's the situation of what's happening now. And there are certain things people need to do and can do to stay grounded and connected with us, so that they can be effective light workers and moving the evolution of humans along.
So, how do we find our personal angel team?
So, as uh, in and what we've laid out in the book is ways to do that, and I kind of take it from the beginning. We kind of review what angels in religion are, and then science, psychology, and then we walk through meditations and mainly and things to do to be able to connect in your own way. I mean, that's the thing. It's all unique in different ways and for different people. So the first thing I always say is to meditate and to quiet your mind. We have to quiet our minds. We're in a game show reality, with buzzers and whistles and TVs and all kinds of messages coming at us, that that drowns out a lot of the the deep and quiet voices of spirit in our lives. And so the first thing is quiet your mind. The second thing is to ask, please connect me with my spirit team. I mean, and then, tremendous things can happen. I mean, for me, because I was doubling down on this, I'm like, a year ago, if somebody said, do you have a spirit team? I'd say no. And then if they said, do you have psychic abilities? I'd say hard no. No, I don't have a psychic ability. But, everyone says, I don't know if you've heard this, but so many psychics and intuitives and medical intuitives say, like, everyone can learn this, everyone can do this. And I'm like, shut up. We can't do this. I can't do this. But I doubled down, and with an open heart, you ask and you go, you do some courses on a divine mediumship course I took 6 months ago. And all of a sudden these things open up. You get in touch, you feel the presence. For me, a very dear friend of mine passed away in 2015, and 6 months ago he connected with me. Like right now, he's right behind me. So it may come in different ways. There's no one set way. And then there's a
So,
practice.
I'm glad you mentioned a friend that has crossed over and is now with you. Um, how can you tell if a person has actually crossed over or if they're a haunting spirit?
That's a great question. I mean, I think it's all of, when you get into, again, trusting your intuition, trusting that your team and that God source spirit is with you to protect you. And
So
then it's the
these
feeling. It's the feeling. Sorry.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Gut level feeling. So when these ones come, say for instance, my great grandmother comes, just as a pretend, my great grandmother comes and starts guiding me, giving me information. That doesn't make her a guardian angel because angels have never been incarnate, right? So would she
Correct.
be a helping spirit?
Yeah, it would be part of your. You can, and we, and people have been saying like spirit team. It seems kind of like like a college football team or something. It's like, but it's just a collection of spirits that are kind of focused on you, and it can be. It certainly always is a guardian angel. It could be archangel, etc., and it can be a past loved one, and it can be ascended masters, this and that. But yeah, if you see them on a regular basis, then certainly they're a spirit part of your spirit team to help you along the way.
So you mentioned uh now I can't remember what you said. I'm going to take it a different direction. You have spoken of extraterrestrials. How does that fit in here?
Yeah, and lately I've just been calling it, like, let's call it, folks. There are other beings that have been around our planet in the past, um, present, and will be in the future. There's just so much evidence and stories. And when people say evidence, like, well, what kind of evidence? Have we interviewed one? No, but uh, you know, uh, to me, thousands and thousands of stories about these. And plus, when you really start digging in, you can maybe see hints of them in our culture. I personally look at them as uh, in the creation of the universe, the physical universe, they're part of that. So they are our brothers and sisters. That it's just like if we found a village in Africa of a civilization that we never knew about. It's the same thing, except these beings are on in other planets and other galaxies.
So
It's
just
a
because they're from off world doesn't make them omnipotent, does it?
No, so from my perspective, they are like us, except for us, we are relatively young, a young civilization. Humanity is very young, a few 100,000 years old, where some of the star nations, as some people call them, Pleiades, Arcturians, whatever, they're a billion years old. So they have a different perspective on
Well,
things.
how do we know how old they are?
Well, this is all, it's just like, how do we know anything? I mean, at some point you have to say, where's the source? Where's your source? And so anything spiritual, whether it's in a Bible or a sacred text, somebody wrote it down, and you choose to believe it or not. And in modern day terms, when you have people are able to connect with Archangel Michael and a spirit team or an extraterrestrial, you have to say, is this true or not? Does it ring true? And again, it goes back to that intuitiveness. What is their purpose? Is this love? Is this light? Is this intention? pure. That's how we can tell.
Well, we're just about out of time in this segment, but does it also have to do with building a really solid relationship with your team so that you can run somebody else by them?
Run somebody else by the
In other
meaning.
words, is this information accurate that I'm getting? It's from a
Mhm.
news source, but if I run it by my team that I'm relying on,
Oh, your
then
spirit team.
yes.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That, you ask, you have, sometimes I would get a distinct feeling that I was part, it was like a dream type of state. I got a feeling that I was like in a working meeting, with
Well,
my spirit team at a, yeah.
we're going to have to go into that working meeting on the other side of the station break. Please stay with us as Scott and I continue to explore helpers from unseen realms. This is Mission Evolution, missionevolution.org. Can we find our very own angels? This is Mission Evolution, missionevolution.org. We're continuing our discussion with Dr. Scott Guerin, his website, angelsintraining.org. Scott, are there lots of different ways one communes with angels? Automatic writing, hearing them in dreams, actually hearing them in our mind's ear. What are all the different forms that we can communicate or recognize communication from angels?
Yeah, and that's important point, that there is a lot of different ways, and you mentioned a few that are good. The automatic writing is the first way I kind of knew I had a connection with a spirit team that was providing me with information, outside of my own head, and then like I've said before, earlier, to quiet our minds, put out the intention, and then listen, and take yourself out of the equation. If you have an idea to do something that is unlike something that you've done before, or that if you feel you have to get someone else's approval of, like, hey, I'm going to do this, is that okay? Or like, I'm scrying is a big thing. I don't know if you're familiar with it. It's, where you sit in front of a mirror with a candle, and you look at your own face, and then kind of just go into a meditative state, kind of quieting your mind, and then just start writing. So it's automatic writing, but there is a little bit more of a guidance there. Um, but there's so many ways, and as I mentioned in our study we mentioned, the repeated numbers, the smells. Sometimes you can have the uh, different, what's that smell? So, oh, my grandfather used to smoke, or whatever it may be, and you smell that. So that's the way to connect. But it's really um, trusting that they will work with you, meaning your spirit team, to connect in whatever way you're ready for.
In whatever way you're wired best, probably.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Scott, are there fallen angels? What is a fallen angel?
Yeah, and it's a great question, because Nicole and I thought about that and discussed it a bit, like, on, when we're writing this book and getting it together, like, do we get into the whole demonology and that that end of things, the dark side of things? And we decided pretty quickly no, mainly because it would have doubled the length of the book. I mean, because
But
there is a
but
whole
but
world.
I'm asking, are there fallen
Oh,
angels? And if so, how do you know if you're talking to one of them or you're
okay.
talking to somebody that you can rely on?
Yeah. So from my understanding and research, is that it kind of follows the scenario of the battle between Archangel Michael and Archangel Lucifer, way back when, at some point in time, that the Lucifer was cast out, and all his followers. So whether they were unincarnated spirits, or maybe they're humans that are just very, very angry, have tons of hatred, and are, lurking around. Yes, they do exist. It is a world out there, and we didn't want to cover it in our book because we wanted to stick with the good guys.
So yeah. So
How do you
given
tell?
that, if they exist, how do you tell?
Okay, well, it's the feeling, the gut feeling, in a sense. Is this good? Is this bad? You pray, please give me guidance, in this situation. And usually, from what I've I've understood and not experience, but from other people's experiences, it's very obvious that is not a good thing. It's not a good feeling.
Well,
And
sometimes the light of an angel, the intense light can bring up our shadows. How can we tell that that negative feeling is not coming from within?
well, I'm thinking about the demonic, scenario, where something is kind of after you, holding you down in bed, or that type of thing, is what you can kind of discern immediately.
Yeah, that'd be a
And
clue. It would be a really
it would be
strong
a
clue.
clue, yeah.
Yeah.
And in those cases, you just pray. What I tell people, you just pray. Pray to the angel, the deity, your ascended master, to protect you in that moment. But as far as things coming up inside you, seeing like, hurtful things inside of you, I think that's part of the growing process that is a good thing at times. I mean, it depends on what the scenario is, but if you have hurtful behavior, you want that to be identified and addressed and grow through that. And you can, again, you can ask for that. And this is not just, it's all not isolated from other people. I mean, we're sociable people. We need to have a good team, good, friendship and teachers and mentors around us, even if it's just one or two, to be able to run some of these things by them, to say like, okay, this is something we have to address, or this is just a growing thing, whatever it may be.
It always helps to have feedback.
Oh
So,
yeah.
Scott, it's that time in the show, and I get to ask you, what's your mission?
My mission is, and I believe I've been doing this for lifetimes. I had a reading, whether it's true or not, I don't know. I've The passion I've had towards spirit and making that connection is, I've been pursuing that for a long time. And so, what I do is I research and I experience and I tell the world about how to connect with the spirit team, and more importantly, understand who we really are, because we are not an item that was created amongst other items. We are part of Source. We are part of God, and we can do that in many and confirm that along the way. And the more we do that, the more peace we'll have within ourselves, and also then be a part of the peace rolling out on the planet.
So it sounds like helping people uncover who they really are to start out with.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Yeah,
It's like we've been sold a bill of goods and we bought into it.
yeah.
Um, so, what are the dimensional levels of existence?
So that is a scenario, and I looked at it, and since I did my doctorate in human development. So you look at, I studied for years, and there's about 12, popular uh, approaches to human development. But the spiritual level, is certainly outside of academia, because there's no way to kind of analyze it or question people and come up with theories. But it is the idea, when you look at things outside of academia and religious text, you have dimensions. A third dimension is the vibration of our physical world, and then you get out of that into the fourth, and then there's lots of different models. Is there 9 dimensions, is there 50, is there hundreds? But the idea is that once we get out of this physical world, we transition through the fourth dimension, where we kind of get our spirit legs, I say. And then in the fifth dimension is where we really start connecting with one consciousness, where love is emphasized, where connection is emphasized. And uh, that's where it's at, as far as the positive things.
So it looks like there's two things going on here simultaneously. One is the individual's journey, if you will, through the
Mhm.
dimensions. The other one, isn't it our society or the planet's journey through the dimensions?
Absolutely, and that's what I believe the messages are now coming through now, that our society, planet wide, is going through a shift in dimension from third to fourth and fifth, and then that's what's going to cause a lot of upheaval, because people resist that. We resist change. They like separation. They want to have somebody to fight, and want to have an enemy, and that type of thing. So that's happening. And from what my angel team says, that it is written in stone. It is going to happen, but we got to get through this turmoil phase first. But you're absolutely right. The individual level, it's happening at the same time. And it can happen at in different perspectives or in different ways, obviously from the global aspect.
Well, we're running close to being out of time in the whole show, but you spoke of free will. And if we are indeed engaging in this evolutionary process planet wide, can the individual decide to leave their head in the sand and their fanny in the air and not participate?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, that's anyone's prerogative to do so, just like, learning anything, we can choose to, we can choose to progress. We can choose a positive direction, or we can choose to disconnect. We can choose a negative direction. And whatever direction we take, that'll get us to where we want to go. If somebody doesn't want to change, well, then that's where that they won't see any change. If they want to stay steeped in anger and resentment, they can do there. They can stay there. However, we can change our direction on any given moment.
It would appear that given that we're all going through this at the same time, there's a lot more pressure to see than there is to not see.
Um, yes, I would say so. It takes an effort to do that, and it might take some change, to experience that. Um, so pressure, I don't know, because the benefit is so great, positively, that it's almost like a magnet, in my
Yes.
mind.
Well,
Yeah.
unfortunately, we are out of time. Scott, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, and I hope that our conversation helps those who need the help.
Our guest this hour has been Dr. Scott Guerin. He's the author of Angels in Training series. His new book is Looking for Angels, a guide to understanding and connecting with angels. To find out more about Scott, where you can find his books and all he has to offer, visit his website, angelintraining.org. This has been Mission Evolution with Gwilda Wiyaka. For more information or to enjoy our past archived episodes, visit www.missionevolution.org. But please do be sure to join us right here next time. This mission will continue, bringing information, resources, and support to our evolving world.